Hi, boys and girls. Welcome to week 8. We are looking at day 1 of LAL of week 8. So please make sure up top you're on LAL, you are on class pages, and that you're on week 8. Here you have the welcome message. Remember, to the right, you always have resources to help you. So if you don't know what your assignment's about, you can always click on these anchor charts and these videos and these images that will help you know what each of these words mean. We are going to be looking at how do you raise a raisin again. So you can have your My Book in front of you, or you can watch the YouTube video again and have the story read to you. But you do need your My Book so you could do this. All right, so assignment 1 is about figurative language. We've done a few things in class for figurative language, like similes. Similes, we use the word as and like. So if you remember the fall activity we did, we said the leaves are falling as fast as lightning. We said the pumpkin is as small as a M&M. We did idioms, if you remember, for St. Patrick's Day around that time with the St. Patrick hats. We did idioms that are like, easy as a piece of cake. When something's a piece of cake, it doesn't really mean that it's a piece of cake. It just means that it's easy. When you say to someone, break a leg, doesn't mean go outside and break your leg. It just means do a good job. If someone says to you, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling blue, that doesn't mean they're turning the color blue. It just means that they're feeling blue. So figurative language is more of like an exaggeration, and they don't really mean what they say. So it's not exactly what you think. So we're going to be looking at figurative language for assignment 1. When you click on the assignment, you'll see everything laid out in front of you. Now remember, I'm not a fan of all of this written out here. I rather just click on the Word document and it has everything in front of you. Keep in mind that there are anchor charts for you to look at just in case you don't know what to do, but I actually included it in my assignment. So you might want to click on both of these. Here's the day 1 assignment, and then here is the anchor chart. So you want to click on the anchor chart so you can refer to it just in case you don't know what a word means. So click on your day 1 assignment. Okay, make sure you click on top, enable editing. Okay, then go back to PowerSchool and click on the anchor chart that you downloaded so you can see that. It's pretty much the same thing that was on the PowerSchool, but it's bigger so you could see. So you might want to look at this before we do our assignment. So let's look at this anchor chart, and it gives you a bunch of examples of what figurative language are. So figurative language includes figures of speech that compare, exaggerate, or mean something completely different than what it is expected. Remember, we used idioms, we did similes and all that. So here's some examples of figurative language. Sometimes we use similes. Similes compare two things using like or as. So I'm as happy as a clam, or I'm as sad as a kangaroo. Or you might say, I'm as fast as a cheetah. Or I'm big like an elephant. So simile just compares two things, and we've done this before. Then we have something called a metaphor. A metaphor is a comparison of two things by saying one thing is another thing. So you might say, you must be a walking encyclopedia to know all those facts. Okay, that's an example of that. Scroll down. We've seen hyperboles before, and I know you guys talked about it in 2nd grade. Hyperboles are exaggerations that make things sound bigger, better, and more than they really are. So you might be saying a hyperbole when you say, I waited 100 years for this. Did you really wait 100 years? No. You would be probably gone by now if you were 100 years old. So it's an exaggeration. So you might say, oh my God, that took 1,000 years for you to do. Hurry up. That's a hyperbole when you exaggerate. You might say, I fell down on the floor and it hurt so bad that my leg fell off. No, it didn't really fall off. You're just exaggerating. You might say your homework was so hard that it took 1,000 geniuses to help you. You're exaggerating. That's a hyperbole. A hyperbole is when you exaggerate and it's not really what it sounds like. We know what an idiom is because we've done this in class. An expression that means something different from what the meaning of the individual words are. So if you say, I feel sick as a dog, it doesn't mean, if you say that you feel as sick as a dog, it doesn't mean that you're a dog and that you're sick. No, you're a human being. You're just making a silly little reference. So you might say, I gave examples before. You might say, that was a piece of cake. This homework assignment was a piece of cake. Does that mean the homework assignment was really a piece of cake? No. It just means that it was easy. You might say another idiom like I was saying before. You might say, "Aw, you're the apple of my eye." Does that mean there's an apple in your eye? No. It just means that I adore you. I love you. You're fantastic. Another idiom might be, go out there and break a leg. Does that mean I want you to go outside and really break your leg and get hurt? No. I might be saying break a leg if you're doing a performance and I want you to do well. Do well. It's my way of saying, go out there and show them what you're made of, make them encourage them and give them confidence to do well. If you scroll down, you'll see some more. Figurative language. Figurative language creates a special effect or feeling or makes a point. So you might see one called onomatopoeia. That's a hard one. You say onomatopoeia. An onomatopoeia is a word that imitates the sound of what it describes. So if you ever hear, you see a lot of onomatopoeias in comic books. Pop, boom, crack, ring. Those are onomatopoeias. If you see these bubbles and they make sound effects, that's what's called an onomatopoeia. You see them in comic books all the time. Another figurative language is an alliteration, a sound device used to repeat the same consonant sound at the beginning of nearby words. So alliteration is, Sally sent Susan some samples of soup. Notice how every single sentence, every single word starts with the letter S. It's kind of like a tongue twister. So if you ever said, Sally sold seashells by the seashore. See how many S's I use? They kind of make it confusing for you because you're using as many S's in one sentence. Okay? You might consider that a tongue twister. Then when you scroll down, there's the last two. We have personification. A personification gives human qualities or characteristics to an animal or object. So, for example, the moon follows me when I walk at night. Does the moon actually follow you when you're walking at night? No, it just might seem that way. It might seem that way. You might say the sun follows me everywhere. No, it's not really following you everywhere. It's just so big that it's always there. So you might, it gives someone something human qualities when really it's not human. Then we have imagery. Imagery is language that describes how something looks, sounds, smells, feels, or tastes. So imagery is all about the senses, okay? So you would use lots of adjectives to describe a noun of some sort. So for example, this apple, I bit into the juicy, sweet apple. Juicy and sweet are the imagery of this. It's giving you an idea of what the apple tastes like. It's juicy and sweet. So they're just adjectives and it gives you that image in your head. Ooh, I could picture it now. That tastes yummy. So you might say, let's think about ice cream. We might say, on a hot, sweaty day, hot and sweaty are imagery words. On a hot, sweaty day, I went to the ice cream parlor and got a sweet tall, and colorful ice cream cone. And then all those adjectives can make you imagine what that thing you're talking about is, which is the ice cream. I'm talking about how tall and colorful and how cold and yummy it is. So imagery is just a lot of adjectives. Okay, so once you know about all these figurative languages, keep that open so you can use this for this assignment. So day 1. Okay, so it says reread paragraphs 5 through 8 on page 313. Think about the author's use of words and images and read the questions. So if you have your My Book in front of you, I'd like you to turn to page 313. If you don't have your book in front of you, you could always go back to Power School, go back to the story right in front of you, and stop when it gets to page 313. So since I don't have my book in front of me right now, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to skip a little bit. Okay, that is page 312. And then this is, let's see. And then this is page 313. Yeah, that's 313 right here. So I'm going to pause it right here. What is this mess right here? All right, so page 313 is right over here. So before I reread it, I'm going to read the question. It says, what image do the names Raisinfield and Raisinville help create? So what image does it make you picture in your head? So when you read it, it's going to give you some figurative language that's going to help you imagine what Raisinfield and Raisinville is like. So we'll have that read to us.
Raisins grow best in areas with nice dirt, many days of hot weather, a dry climate, and plenty of water. Almost all of the raisins in the United States are grown in the San Joaquin Valley of California, near towns like Chowchilla, Dinuba, Kingsburg, Selma, Weed Patch, and even Raisin City. About 90% of the raisins sold in the United States come from the area around Fresno, California. Do farmers plant some seeds from the local garden shop and wait for raisin bushes to produce a raisin crop? Farmers start a new crop of raisins by taking cuttings from an older grapevine. These pieces of stem are planted in sand until they sprout. Then they are planted in the fields next to a wooden stake. Raisinville.
Okay, so before we go on to the next page, right over here on the top, when they started talking about Raisinville, they had some imagery words. Remember imagery? They used a lot of adjectives. So they said that in a nice dirt road, it's very dry, not that much water. It makes you imagine that it's pretty much what kind of place? What can you imagine? A place that's very dry, a place that has a lot of dirt, it has some water, not that much water. What kind of place might have that? What do you picture Raisinville to be like? Okay, and that's what it's asking. What do you imagine when you hear what they're talking about? Like, do you imagine them living, do you imagine it being like Antarctica? No, because they're not talking about how cold it is. Do you imagine it to be like the rainforest? Maybe the desert? What do you think comes to mind when you hear them read about Raisinville? And then you'll read about Raisinfield as well, and you're going to imagine what Raisinfield sounds like. So on the next page, like I said, just page 313. So paragraphs 5 and 8, which is pretty much these top over here. So again, you're just telling me what you imagine when you hear those imagery words. Remember, imagery has those words like dirt. It had words like dry. It had some water. So again, what do you imagine Raisin Field and Raisinville to be like? Is it like Antarctica? You tell me. Okay, number 2. How is this figurative language different from the facts about where raisins grow? So once you talk about, so this question number 2 comes from question number 1. How does this figurative language different from the facts about where raisins grow? Since we've been reading the story, you should already know where raisins grow. If you don't know, go back to the story and figure out where raisins grow. Then, from using that information, tell me how this is different than what you imagined Raisin Field and Raisinville to be like. Okay? You're just telling me how different they are compared to the facts that you already know about raisins. Number 3. Why does the author use the word cuttings in quotation marks? All right, so if you go back and you find this in 313, because remember, you're using page 313 again, so I'm going to go back. And you're going to find the words cuttings. I'm going to see if I can make it bigger. Cuttings. And it's going to be in quotation marks. Let's see. Can I see it from here? It's kind of hard to use the phone and... Okay, so cuttings would be on this end. Okay? It says farmers start a new crop of raisins by taking cuttings from an older grapevine. Why do they use cuttings in quotation marks? Does it mean what you think it means? Okay, that's the clue for you. Does it actually mean what you think it means? Why do you think they're using cuttings in quotation marks? What is the author trying to do to you? Why is he using quotation marks? Number 4. What simile is used in paragraph 19 on page 315? Why do you think the author chooses the simile? So remember, if you don't know what a simile is, go back to the anchor chart, and it says it's a comparison of two things using like or as. So again, you're going to go to page 315. So I'm going to go to page 315, which is... I'm going to turn to the next page. Okay. And you're going to, I'm not going to read it for you. You're going to find it yourself because you guys are third graders. So once you're on 315, which is this page, it asks you to look at paragraph 19. Paragraph 19 is right over here, the bottom right over here. So once you find paragraph 19, I want you to reread it. And then you're going to try to find the simile. And remember, simile uses like or as. Once you find the simile like or as, then you're going to tell me what simile it is. So you're going to say the simile that they use in paragraph 19 is, and then you tell me what it was. Okay? And then it asks you, why do you think the author chooses to use a simile? Here's a clue. Why do you think he used the simile? Because he wants to what? I'm just pointing to the answer. He wants to compare. Okay? That's all I'm going to say to you. So there's 2 parts to this question. Number 5. Pick one type of figurative language from the anchor charts and create your own example. So now this is your own. You don't need the story for this one. For number 5, it's up to you. Pick a simile, pick a metaphor, a hyperbole, an idiom, or onomatopoeia, or alliteration, or personification, or imagery. Pick whichever you want. If I were you, I would pick an idiom because you already know how to do idioms, you know how to do similes, you know how to do an exaggeration. I gave you a bunch of examples. You might want to do an example of an onomatopoeia. Just pick one. Pick one. Tell me which one you did. So if you chose, and you can't use mine. So for example, let's say I did the simile. I would write simile, and I would say, I'll copy this one. I would write simile, and I would write happy as a clam. if that's what you're doing. Obviously, if you're going to do simile, please don't copy the one they did. Come up with your own one. All right, so you're just coming up, just pick one of these. Don't pick all, or don't pick all 8 of them. Just pick one of them. That's it. That's all you have to do. Then hand everything in. Bye.